Right. I think that we need more than just my voice on this, for sure. It's not every single student has their own individual idea of what this is, just as teachers and administrators do. You mentioned earlier in the presentation that it differs from each school to school, but I think we can go even further than that and say that it also differs by teacher to teacher. It goes as far to say as you know what the rules are in one classroom and you know what the rules are in others, and you know what rules you can be more flexible on in one classroom versus another classroom. I think that's a key point that leaves students behind. I think what we need to do in when we're discussing this policy and when we're setting it up for future school years, when I'm not going to be here, more transparency for students on what the rules are. I think me personally, I can remember the last time that I had an assembly on what the rules were, not just cell phone policy, what the rules were in general for my school was my transition from elementary to middle, which, by the way, I went to Carroll County. So that was the last time, and it was, I know that this adjustment, not to say the C word, but COVID, has greatly affected how much students have depended on technology in general. I know that after a whole year of only being able to work virtually, it still affects me, it still affects students to this day on how we depend on technology, not just our computer, but our cell phones. For a whole year, I want to put into perspective on why students might feel as though they wish to have it by their side in their backpack for quick access. A whole year, that was the only way students were able to communicate with each other. A whole year, more than that at this point, in which students, this was their only way of being able to talk to people. And in that transition, this was not just students, this was adults. Everybody was sort of confined to their own homes for a whole year. And more than that, it still affects us to this day and how students treat technology. I just learned today that you can get in trouble for filming a fight. Mm-hmm. If students don't understand that this is a rule that they need to follow, then I don't think we as people who are creating these rules can expect students to follow them. So I think we need to make sure that we're transparent with the rules and we create clear guidelines, not just for teachers, but for students as well. Because I remember going into high school virtually, my freshman year was virtually, and I'm sure that other people experience middle school and elementary school virtually, that there were no rules. And so when they went to their next year, it was all just an adjustment, and there was no guideline. So we're seeing behavior problems. And I know we can say that student behavior, which is a work session that we're having coming up, is correlating with cell phone usage. We don't know how much, but we do know that it is. And so what we need to do is, while I'm not sure how this policy will be changed in the upcoming years, I do know we need students involved in the creation of this policy, and we need people to teach students what the policy is going to be, because otherwise how are we supposed to enforce rules that they don't know, you know? So I think that's what I have.